Now, as I said, the Prime Minister has now left Indonesia. I think he's mid-air on his way to Rome to the Pope's inauguration. That'll take place on Sunday. He also has a Canadian visit on the radar coming up on the sidelines of the G7 later in the month. And most people assume he will then visit the United States and see Donald Trump on that trip. Look, I mean, all but going to the Vatican makes sense. He made a point of ramming home the idea that Indonesia was such an important trading partner. Here's the PM in Indonesia yesterday.
For Australia, the deepening of our trade with Indonesia and the strengthening of investment in Indonesia is natural and vital, but it is not inevitable. To convert extraordinary potential into concrete progress, then all of us, government, business and civil society, need to demonstrate greater engagement and ambition.
We're lucky enough to be joined now from Bandung in Indonesia, Deakin University Global Islamic Politics Chair Greg Barton. Great to see you again, Greg. You live in Indonesia. How important is, to Indonesia, rather than the other way around, is Australia?
Good question, Steve. The danger for Australia is that Australia risks becoming increasingly less important. It always have an importance being a physical neighbour and a large continent to Indonesia to the south. But we can't take it for granted that Indonesia will see us as being as important in Australia as we, when we pay attention to Indonesia as being. So I think it's right for the Prime Minister to strike the tone saying we cannot take this for granted.
Greg, last time, obviously, disastrously, we had, when Labor was in government, we had the problem with the live cattle trade, and that didn't help our relations. I was surprised during the week to read when economists talk about the balance of trade between the two countries. We don't export all that much to Indonesia, do we?
No, we do more trade with New Zealand than we do with Indonesia. Nothing wrong with trading with New Zealand. We do more trade with Singapore than we do with Indonesia. This is a nation of 285 million people on its way to perhaps 300 million people by the end of the decade, and heading towards being the world's perhaps sixth largest economy. It's an opportunity for us, Steve. It's both in terms of security, obviously, but for trade particularly, and that includes education, which is why I'm in Bandung, heading up a new Deakin campus in Bandung. But there's just a lot of opportunity for us. No one's saying it's easy or there aren't problems, but we'd be foolish to miss the opportunity.
PM Greg was reluctant when asked again about that idea Russia wanted some sort of air base in the archipelago of Indonesia. What's the real story here? Is that gone away, that issue?
No, Indonesia is happy to go down the line of keeping friendly relations with Moscow. President Prabowo went as far as visiting Putin in Moscow, but I think when they made what was an unreasonable request, they were told fairly clearly, no, we can't do that. Indonesia is very, very fussy about their sovereignty. The fact that they've signed a military agreement with Australia in the previous term of government and perhaps can build on that is a pretty remarkable breakthrough, because they're famously non-aligned, and they're not fools when it comes to where Russia sits in the world. To be frank, Russian military hardware and Russian trade looks less and less attractive, and to give up their sovereignty for no gain didn't make any sense.
With your Islamic studies hat on, Greg, Donald Trump's been in the Middle East. He's the first US president to meet with the leader of Syria in 25 years. Qatar has signed a deal to purchase, I think, 210 US-made Boeing jets. He's done a big deal also with the UAE today. How important is this Middle East swing by Donald Trump?
Well, it's probably the most successful phase of the Trump presidency so far, the second term. Trump famously wants to be known as a transactional president. The alleged writer of The Art of the Deal hasn't gone so well in the first 100 days, but this trip actually has gone pretty well for him, leaving aside the questions of receiving a dubious gift from Qatar in the form of a 747 luxury aircraft. The meeting with Ashara from Syria, the removal of sanctions on Syria, the important meetings both in Saudi Arabia and across the Gulf. I think this is actually Trump at his best.